Hello and welcome to Nana Mouses. I don't have my nose today, um, but we are going to be doing our chapter 2 reading tonight. Now, if you remember when we last left Toby and Doby Mouse, they were lying on the floor outside of their hole waiting for their little friend Suzy to come back with some lunch. Neither one of them had a clue what lunch was, and Suzy was kind of surprised at that, but she was very anxious to share with them her favorite time of day, which is the lunchtime she got to spend with her mommy. So, we will read on about lunchtime, and then we will probably continue on to chapter 3, because chapter 2 is a little small, so Toby and Doby's first lunch will be incorporated, which means included, with this chapter. So sit back with your mommy and daddy, or your grandma and grandpa, or whoever you happen to be listening to this with, and just enjoy the story. All right? And here we go. The little girl climbed onto her chair at the table. My favorite, Mommy. Thank you. The young woman stared down at the beautiful child before her and smiled. And just what were you doing down in the basement this entire time, young lady? She asked. I was playing with my friends, the child explained between bites. Peanut butter and strawberry jelly were Suzy's all-time favorite, and she ate as if she hadn't eaten in days. Your friends, the mother remarked, not at all surprised. Suzy had quite the imagination. Yep, Suzy said. May I have another, please? I promised I'd bring them some lunch after nap time. I suppose so, Suzy's mother said. I'll make one for them when you wake up. Finish yours. Okay, the little girl said. Thank you, Mommy. They need some milk and a cookie, too. Yes, dear, we'll fix them right up, Mother chuckled as she went back to washing the dishes. Suzy quickly gulped down her milk and ate her cookie. Grabbing her napkin, she wiped her mouth. Then, hopping down off her chair, she picked up her dirty dishes and carried them over to her mommy. She's a big helper. All little girls should be big helpers to their mommies. Thank you, Suzy. You are such a big helper, Mommy said. Placing the dishes on the counter, she bent down and scooped the small child up into her arms. Off to bed with you, my precious angel, Mother said, carrying Suzy upstairs to her bed. Laying Suzy down gently upon the bed, Mother kissed her softly on the forehead and said, I love you, Suzy. I love you too, Mommy, Suzy replied. Sweet dreams, baby, Mommy said, closing the door to the little girl's room. The young mother shook her head and chuckled softly as she remembered Suzy's words. I promised to bring them lunch after nap time. What an imagination, Mommy exclaimed, a big smile on her face. So Suzy stretched out her arms and yawned. Suddenly, her eyes flew open as she remembered her new friends in the basement. Jumping out of bed, she put on her shoes, bounced down the stairs, ran down the hall, and into the kitchen. Looking up from her newspaper, the young mother smiled lovingly as her little girl came through the door. Putting down the newspaper, she reached out her arms as the little girl jumped into them. She kissed her daughter on the top of her head and tickled her tummy, making Suzy giggle. Did you have a good nap, honey? Mother asked. Suzy shook her head. Yes, Mommy, I did. Then, hopping down, the little girl continued. Did you make lunch for my friends, Mommy? The mother smiled. Not yet, dear. Are you sure they are still hungry? Oh, yes, Mommy. I'm sure that they're really hungry by now. Well, then, what do you think they would like? The mother asked. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich, some milk, and a cookie, please, Suzy replied. The mother got up from the table and began to make lunch for Suzy's little friends. First, Mother took a paper plate and a paper cup from the cupboard and put them on the counter. Next, she brought down the peanut butter from the shelf and took the bread out of the bread box. Taking 2 slices of bread out of the bag and grabbing a knife from her drawer, Mother spread the peanut butter onto the bread. Walking over to the refrigerator, Mother opened the door and took out the jelly and the milk. After putting the jelly on the sandwich and pouring a cup of milk, Mother reached deep into the cookie jar and brought out a big, fat cookie, a chocolate chip cookie. Placing the cookie on the plate next to the sandwich, Mother handed them to Suzy. Opening the basement door, Mother said, "I hope your friends enjoy it." "Thank you, Mommy. I'm sure they'll love it," Suzy said. "Be careful on the stairs, Suzy." "I will, Mommy," Suzy said, sitting down on the top step and scooting herself all the way to the bottom, one step at a time. At the bottom, she stood up, careful not to spill the milk on the floor. Walking over to where she had last seen her little friends, she put the cup and the plate down on the floor. "Little mice," Suzy called out as she sat cross-legged on the floor beside their food. "Little mice, where are you?" From where they laid, the little mice began to stir at the sound of Suzy's voice. Stretching their little paws over their heads and yawning, they sat up and sniffed the air. "Something smells good," the little one said. They licked their lips and scurried over to the little girl. "Is this lunch?" the bigger mouse asked. "Yep," Suzy exclaimed, "and it's all for you." "Oh boy," the mice cried out as they climbed atop the plate and began to nibble at the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This is good," the bigger mouse said. The little mouse agreed. "What is it called?" "It's my favorite, peanut butter and jelly," Suzy said. "It's yummy," the little mouse said. The bigger mouse just nodded. His mouth was too full to speak. When the sandwich was all gone, they went over to the cup and, carefully placing their front paws on the rim, stood up and lapped at the tasty milk. Suzy laughed when they looked up at her. "You have milk mustaches," Suzy giggled. The two mice sneezed. "It went up my nose," the little mouse said, sneezing again. Can you see the milk on his nose? "Mine too," the bigger mouse said, "but it sure is good." "Try the cookie," Suzy said. "It's good." The mice each bit off a piece of cookie. Then, without a word, they finished every last crumb. Placing their tiny paws atop their tummies, the little mice sat down. "Boy, that was really good," the bigger mouse said. "I like lunch," the little mouse exclaimed. "Do you eat lunch every day?" he asked the little girl. "Yes, every day," Suzy replied. "Wow, you're lucky," the little mouse told her. "I'll bring you lunch every day," the little girl promised. "You will?" the two mice asked excitedly. "Sure I will. I promise," the little girl said. "Yay!" the little mouse yelled. Holding hands and jumping up and down for joy, the two little mice sang happily. "We get to have lunch every day. We get to have lunch every day." Suzy laughed and clapped her hands together as the two mice danced in circles at her feet. Suddenly, a loud squeak came from within their hole in the wall. The two little mice stopped dancing and cocked an ear toward the hole. "Squeak! We have to go. Our mommy is calling now," the bigger mouse told the little girl. "I understand," the little girl replied. "When mommies call, you have to go. It's the rule." The mice nodded their heads. "Will we see you tomorrow?" "You sure will. I have to bring you lunch, remember?" Suzy reminded them. The two mice smiled at their new friend. The basement would not be a cold and lonely place anymore. Waving goodbye, they headed for their hole. "Wait," Suzy called out to them. "What are your names?" "I'm Toby," the bigger mouse said, "and my little brother here is Doby." "My name is Suzy," the little girl said. "See you tomorrow, Toby and Doby." "See you tomorrow, Suzy," the mice brothers promised as they scurried into their hole. Now next time we get together, we'll find out what their mommy has to say. Do you think Toby and Doby are going to tell their mommy about Suzy? I don't know. We'll have to see, because mice are kind of afraid of people. So, I look forward to seeing you next week. You take care, and I hope you enjoyed the story. Later.